Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Administration's Operations and Budget Committee of Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. First of all, I'd just like to say that I'm happy to announce that today, Hennepin County, for the first time, is live streaming our committee meetings on YouTube. We are adding, good afternoon, everyone. In addition, and welcome to the Administration's Operations and Budget Committee of Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. First of all, I'd just like to say, okay, we got that taken care of. So I'm going to start that again. I'm happy to announce today Hennepin County for the first time is live streaming our committee meetings on YouTube. We do live stream, but not on YouTube. So we are adding this in addition to our current streaming tools provided to residents in Hennepin County website. We're providing this second method so Hennepin can increase access to live and archived official county business to a wider audience across our community. Residents can now access both live streaming and archived materials on Hennepin County's YouTube channel. The handle is at Hennepin MN. And I just want to say that this has been a year in the making and rewiring this entire area, the office area and the back, to make this actually happen with the new tools that we had to implement to get this. But I know that our seniors and our handicapped individuals have been asking for this because they say it's so much more attainable and accessible for them. So I just want to say thank you to all the staff and everybody who worked to make that possible. Really appreciate you. And at this time, I'm going to pass this off to Chair Fernando to introduce and to talk about June 14th and comments.
Thank you, Chair Guttel. I asked for time at the top of our committee agenda this afternoon because it's the first time the County Board has formally convened since June 14th. And it's important to acknowledge what has weighed very heavily on all of us here in Minnesota and across the country. Like so many Minnesotans, I woke up early on Saturday, June 14th, to a disturbing and distressing reality that will forever shape our collective future. In the middle of the night, a gunman impersonated a police officer, stalked and terrorized 4 elected officials' homes in Hennepin County. This horror comes as we've seen an intensifying political climate in recent years, including increased threats against public sector workers, from election staff to public works to social services and more. Thousands of our neighbors and friends who chose public service for the betterment of our communities, who've dedicated their lives to the public good, and who have defended and strengthened our democracy. My heart breaks for the political assassination of Madam Speaker Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their dog Gilbert. We extend our most heartfelt condolences to their children, family, friends, and community for this unimaginable loss. Commissioners on this board and team members across the organization have served alongside Melissa in community, at the legislature, and during her time working here at Hennepin County. I myself had the immense privilege of directly working with and learning from Melissa. Personable, attentive, open, and determined. A quiet fierceness, a balanced tenacity, and inquisitive studiousness. She governed with an unassuming confidence, a results-oriented practicality, and an overt connection to her values. Melissa used her voice, platform, and gavel to push the envelope on behalf of all of her colleagues and community members, especially those like myself who might be overlooked by systems. Speaker Hortman's legacy will live on through her transformational leadership, from codifying abortion access to universal school meals to averting government shutdowns. And the attempted murder of Senator John Hoffman, his wife Yvette, and their daughter is deeply, deeply troubling. I've had the privilege of working with John and look forward to continuing and strengthening our partnership for disability advocacy and services, health access, and healthcare workers. We extend our care and love to his family, friends, and community. Our thoughts are with all of the victims, their families, and every person feeling the fear and horror of this violence. I like to hold space for the fear that many are feeling right now, and not just elected officials, but also team members, partners, providers, community members, and residents across Minnesota. This fear is real and it is valid. It will take time, care, and community, but we cannot be defined by fear, and we cannot allow hateful language and acts of violence to become normalized in our communities. To residents and employees, in the face of continued uncertainty and constructed crises, Hennepin County remains unwavering in our commitments to continue services and lead in ways that advance our shared mission. In the face of intimidation, we must continue to lead with compassion, bravery, and a sincere belief in what's possible. Public participation and community building are necessary in representative democracy. We must choose individual acts of kindness, and we must cultivate communally a shared future that we are proud to pass on to future generations. No matter who you love, where you were born, your race, gender, or faith, the people's love for one another can and will prevail. Hennepin County's flags will continue to fly at half-mast for Speaker Horton. The county board will honor her at our next full board meeting on Tuesday, July 8th, and the Lowry Avenue Bridge will be lit in state Minnesota colors in her honor. This coming Friday, June 27th, the public can pay their respects to Speaker Hortman between noon and 5 p.m. She will lie in state at the Capitol with Mark and Gilbert. I plan to be there, and if you are able, hope you are able to join into community. Thank you for the time, Madam Chair, and I'd ask that you open up to any of our colleagues who may want to speak as well.
Yes, at this time, I'd like to know if any of the other colleagues would like to speak at this time. I know sometimes it may be difficult. Some of you may or may not want to. It's up to you. Go ahead, Commissioner Edelson.
I didn't prepare anything. I didn't know we were going to totally open this up, I'm going to be honest. So I was with Melissa on Thursday, 2 days before she was murdered, and Mark as well. I was part of the 2018 class that made Melissa Speaker, same year that we were elected, Angela and Irene. And she was an amazing woman, just like everybody's been saying in the news. And I think what goes beyond that is there's so many impacted that might not even have met her for more than 5 minutes because they knew what she stood for. At the Capitol, she was a quiet force, always making sure that we would get things done. Oftentimes things that we didn't always want to do. Her last vote, I think, was difficult for her. Everybody saw that saw the coverage. But it showed the strength of who she was as a person, that she knew that the state wasn't going to be able to pass an operating budget. The state has to pass one, right? There's lots of state workers. She knew how many people would be impacted. And so I just would say she loved Gilbert. That dog was, when I remember she got Gilbert, he was really hard to potty train. And Mark was just pure light. Having a political husband myself, he was just very happy and kind. Anyways, I'm happy to honor her. And I think the thing that I have told my sons over these last few weeks or the last week and a half, is that you can hold space for joy and the joyful moments that she brought, and also the complexity and the pain that we're feeling. So thank you for opening this up.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I think much more eloquently by Commissioner Fernando and Commissioner Edelson. Obviously, I knew Melissa. She was elected a couple years before I became council member in Brooklyn Park. She was one of my bosses, and so was her husband. So I knew them well, and just always knew that whether agreement or disagreement, she would always take a phone call. And to me, that's the most kind description I can give of somebody is if an elected official returns calls, because not all do that. And she would return text messages, she would return calls, she'd show up when we needed her to. And so I know that in her memory, lots of people will act hopefully better, and that we will act upon what she strove to do for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Conley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And man, that was powerful. This is all so powerful. I think that for me, I would always fangirl when Melissa Hortman would respond or react to something I posted on social media. I'm like, if that caught Speaker Hortman's attention, we must be doing something right. And the very last thing that I posted that she reacted to was I hosted Senators Smith and Klobuchar and Congresswoman Omar at a food shelf in my district, talking about how devastating SNAP cuts would be, and how my own family benefited from SNAP benefits many, many years ago. And that was just told me the type of person that she was. And it wasn't only that, it was like any small thing that we posted about to capture her attention. I knew where her values were. Being a part of our IGR co-chairship, conversations are important. And one of the conversations that I remember dearly of someone from the Minneapolis delegation was just how much of a negotiator, how powerful of a negotiator she was. And that's something that I always heard in reference to her name was her negotiation skills and her ability to see both sides and come to consensus. And not everybody has those skills in this work. Not everybody has the skills to build consensus. And that's something that I aspire to, is to be that bridge builder and that someone who can see consensus, find it among vast differences, and lift it up. And so that's how I remember. And I really appreciate the comment about choosing joy, because I firmly believe that joy is healing, joy is powerful, and joy is a form of resistance. I refuse to live in a society where we cannot serve the people who elected us to represent them with fear for our lives. I refuse to accept that society. So I'm choosing resistance, and I'm going to do that in her memory. Thank you.
I just want to thank my colleagues, and I'm glad that we're going to honor her more at the next board meeting, because a couple of our colleagues are not here today. And I know that every one of us have interacted with her and Senator Hoffman. So we all have those lines that we've created, and we all have some wonderful, beautiful memories. I like your statement too, Commissioner Edelson, around living in joy and thinking about the joyful times. I remember going down, and she calls me down to her office and just says, well, Debbie, I said, can you just sit down and explain how this works in the county for me? She says, I don't understand how it goes in and goes out through the county. And I said, yes, I can. And I said, I really appreciate you working so hard to get some of these bills and things passed. But here's what that does for us. And this is why this was so important. And, she didn't know it all, but she wanted to know that she did the right thing and she had the right impact. And you're right, you could call her. She gave out her cell phone number to us so that we could be there with her. When we really needed her, she responded. And she's such a great leader. No matter what side of the political fence you're on, she had a lot of respect for everyone. And that's a really great piece of her. So I just want to thank all my colleagues and everything here. I think this was appropriate and needed. Thank you. Okay, we will continue on with the agenda in front of us. The first item on our agenda are the minutes from the previous meeting of June 3rd, 2025. May I have a motion?
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any corrections or changes? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We have some open appointment interviews, one for the watershed and then one for the Community Advisory Board. Workforce Innovations and Opportunity. It's about 15 minutes worth of that if you want to get ready and get your paper and pencils out. I have my little note sheets here too. And I will ask then the staff, I believe we're going to start with the Watershed Board appointments. Can we have those played, please?
My name is Brianne Bungard. I am a resident of Eden Prairie within the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District. I am a more recent resident of Eden Prairie, moving in the last 2 to 3 years. In that time, I have come to serve as the vice president of the Mitchell Lake Association Board, and I'm an active member in that association. Being on Mitchell Lake, I have a close tie to the Watershed District, and in my professional career, I am a restoration ecologist and project manager. I manage wetland, stream, and habitat restorations throughout the upper Midwest, including Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, the Dakotas, Illinois, and Missouri. I am familiar with the regulatory bodies of these states, and the wetland mitigation banking process is where my focus lies. I do wetland restorations for credits through the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as habitat restoration for credits through the Fish and Wildlife Service. The reason why I am applying for this position on the board is because just living within the watershed district, I have a passion for what the water quality is and could be, as well as the plant communities and surface cover of the watershed district and how that impacts water quality. I am very passionate about the native plant diversity and increasing native plant diversity within an urban environment, which can be extremely difficult. I also think that more focus needs to be put on the upland areas of a watershed district, decreasing the amount of turf and concrete that we have and converting that more into green space, green infrastructure. That is what I'm most interested in being involved in within the watershed district, and tying that into what the lake associations want, what the stakeholders are, and how we could all work together in achieving the goal of decreasing impervious surfaces within the watershed district. I thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about my reappointment to the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District Board of Managers. My name is Tom Duval, and I've had the privilege of serving on the Watershed District Board since July of 2022. During my time on the board, I've served as Vice President, Secretary, and now Treasurer. These roles have given me a thorough understanding of our operations and the responsibilities we carry as stewards of our watershed. My focus has been centered on 3 key areas. Number 1, modernizing our financial systems. I've worked to ensure that our reporting is transparent, accurate, and that we are responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. Number 2, strengthening governance. I've helped revise our governance manual, aligning it with best practices and higher standards of accountability. Number 3, planning for the future. I'm actively involved in the early stages of our next strategic 10-year plan, which will incorporate many aspects of our Ecosystem Health Action Plan, known as EHAP. Professionally, I bring over 30 years of experience in energy and infrastructure, managing multi-million-dollar projects and navigating complex regulatory and operating environments. My background in financial oversight, risk management, and strategic planning directly benefits our watershed work. But beyond experience, what drives me is my personal commitment to this community. I live here, volunteer here, and I spend time with my family enjoying the very resources we work to protect. Looking ahead, I see 3 main priorities. Number 1, finalizing our financial system enhancements. and setting up long-term reporting protocols to maintain ongoing transparency and accurate financial reporting. Number 2, enhancing public engagement, working more closely with the cities in our district to better harness community knowledge and passion for our mission. Number 3, continued development on our new 10-year plan, utilizing traditional strategic planning and dealing with the complex backdrop of the challenges ahead. The work of the Watershed District is essential in the promotion of sustainable practices, which are the foundation of healthy, thriving communities. We need board members who understand both the technical and financial dimensions of this work. I've shown that I can lead on both fronts, and I'm eager to continue serving in this capacity. A reappointment resolution from the City of Minnetonka is forthcoming, and I respectfully ask for your support for a second term. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hello, Commissioners. This is Leslie Stoverink, and I am applying to be on the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District Board. 3 years ago, I retired from the City of Eden Prairie after 25 and a half years as the Environmental and also Water Resources Coordinator. My duties varied over the years, but were primarily related to water resources and education. Now that I am retired, I have found that I miss working not only with the people, but also the natural resources that play such an important part in our communities. Being a part of the board will provide me with a way to continue my work in the field while helping to manage water resource protection efforts going forward. My work experiences included tasks such as working with the city's Development Review Committee, which was established as an interdepartmental team to review development plans, developing plans for groundwater, wetland, and stormwater management, designing and implementing exhibits and programs for the Environmental Learning Center, coordinating lake improvement projects, including aquatic invasive species management, alum treatments, and water quality testing. Thank you much for your time and consideration.
Greetings, Hennepin County Commissioners, staff, and citizens. My name is David Ziegler. I'm applying for a position appointment on Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District Board. I believe clean water is one of the most important legacies we can leave to our future generations. My qualifications include a bachelor's degree of mechanical engineering and a master's degree in business administration, both from the University of Minnesota. I have over 35 years of engineering, project management, and general business management experience. I completed the Freshwater Minnesota Water Steward program in 2016. I helped develop and review the current Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District 10-year plan when I was president of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I was first appointed to the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Board of Managers in 2018. I have served in the positions of Secretary, Vice President, and President. I participated in the Minnesota Watersheds annual conference from 2016 through 2024. I am currently on the Minnesota Watersheds Executive Committee, also co-chair of the Finance Committee, and I currently hold the office of Treasurer. I'm currently active in the Minnesota Water Stewards Program and keep up with current science and best management practices through training and lectures like the University of Minnesota MOOS lecture program and the Arctic Meltdown and Extreme Weather presentation. It's clear to me that by partnering with federal, state, county, and city government and collaborating with Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, Minnesota Board of Soil and Water Resources, schools, private landholders, and other key stakeholders, we can be more effective and better manage taxpayer dollars allocated to manage our water resources. Examples of collaborative projects include.
And I think that ends for the Watershed District. We'll move on to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Board. Can I ask staff to cue those up?
Hi, my name is Kelsey Rogness, and I'm applying for a position on the Hennepin Carver Workforce Development Board. I work at Takeda Pharmaceuticals as a manufacturing manager, and I'm passionate about workforce development, not only from an operational standpoint, but as a catalyst for equity, economic mobility, and long-term community success. At Takeda, I serve as a manufacturing manager, where I lead teams, develop training programs, and foster a culture of continuous improvement. I'm proud to bring a unique perspective from the biopharma industry, one that's driven by innovation, strict regulatory standards, and a deep commitment to quality. In this space, we're seeing rapid changes driven by automation, digital integration, and evolving workforce expectations. These shifts highlight the urgent need to build adaptable talent pipelines and create access to meaningful, future-ready careers. That's where I believe boards like this can play a pivotal role, by aligning public programs and education systems with real-time industry needs. I'm excited about the board's focus on connecting job seekers with employers, expanding work-based learning, and supporting those who've historically been left behind in our systems. I care deeply about building inclusive pathways into manufacturing, especially for women, communities of color, individuals with disabilities, and disconnected youth. I'd be honored to bring my experience and voice to the Hennepin Carver Workforce Development Board. Thank you guys for your consideration. Best, Kelsey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Rush, and I'm thrilled to have the chance to introduce myself and to be considered to serve on the Hennepin Carver Workforce Development Board. I realize our time together is limited, so I'll do my best to keep this short. Growing up, my family taught me about the importance of hard work and community spirit. I was really lucky to be involved in activities that centered around teamwork and service, teaching me that true fulfillment comes not only from personal achievement, but from contributing to the greater good. So if you fast forward to today, here I am, an HR generalist at ThoughtLogic Consulting, where we're all about transforming businesses with a little sprinkle of magic and some serious consulting expertise, of course. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of working with incredible teams across social enterprise, nonprofit, and the corporate world. Each of those experiences shined a spotlight on one undeniable truth. Creating meaningful workplace experiences is what truly drives me. My passion is all about crafting inclusive, high-performing teams and cracking open opportunities for talent development. So why am I excited to be a part of this board? Well, not only do I crave new challenges like I crave my morning coffee, but aligning employee experiences with economic growth is my jam. With the skills I've honed, including navigating HR strategy and technology, I'm ready to amplify that shared mission. So let's connect on how we can unleash that potential together in Hennepin and Carver County. I really appreciate you considering me, and I look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
My name is Julio Vargas Essex. I'm the Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management here at North Hennepin Community College. I'm also a resident of Hennepin County, and I'm honored to be considered for appointment to both the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Board and the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District Board. With over 2 decades of leadership in higher education and workforce development, I believe I bring a deep commitment to equity, innovation, and community partnership. My work is consistently focused on aligning education with labor market needs, expanding access to opportunity, and building a sustainable system that serves both individuals and the broader public good. For the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Board, I offer extensive experience in developing and managing workforce-aligned programs that have led to opportunities such as internship and apprenticeship programs, advisory boards, mentorship and coaching programs, career fairs, companion apps, and a plethora of other opportunities and collaborations with both internal and external partners. I've also led the implementation of a $256,000 Minnesota Job Skills Partnership Grant to develop customized training to Wallman Optical employees, and have overseen strategic enrollment and student success initiatives, and have increased access for students and improved persistence and success rate outcomes. I've also served as an executive sponsor for a number of strategic initiatives such as our Guided Pathways framework and program, and co-led accreditation and strategic planning efforts that I believe directly support the board's mission to evaluate employment needs, recommend strategies for private sector engagement, and monitor training programs across Hennepin and Carver County. For the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District Board, that's a mouthful, I bring a strong interest in environmental stewardship and public education. I'm proud to share that North Hennepin Community College was recently awarded a $200,000 Environmental and Natural Resource Trust Fund grant for our project titled Creating Water Leaders and Outdoor Environmental Laboratory. This initiative will provide hands-on environmental education and leadership development for students across the state of Minnesota, preparing the next generation of students for our natural resources. I believe this work aligns closely with the Watershed Board's mission to protect and restore water resources through community engagement and science-based policy. In both roles, I believe I would bring a collaborative spirit, a systems thinking mindset, and a passion for public service.
And that concludes our interviews for this round. As always, these will be difficult choices. We have really great candidates, as you have heard. So we will, I guess we move this to the next meeting.
Yeah, Madam Chair, it would be a progress or a layover.
It's a progress or layover.
I guess
I
we
keep
could
forgetting.
progress it to July 29th if we wanted to.
What do we need to appoint by to?
Chair, we have several that are expiring the end of July. So you have two board meetings in the month of July, the 8th and the 29th. It's your pleasure. You can lay over or progress to the next board meeting on the 8th. And
Yeah, we'll see.
Everybody? Go ahead.
Michelle says.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just actually wanted to talk for a moment about how these appointments work. So the watershed districts have 3 years for the appointment, and they can get up to 3 times.
Correct.
And then they have to have a supermajority.
Yes,
to
at
be
the
voted.
third.
So of these, one person needs a supermajority.
Correct.
I guess I would like us to have this larger conversation about how these work. It's my now going on a little bit over into a second year, right? So I've been here a full year now. I might be slightly dangerous. But I worry about the idea of using the supermajority to go and seniority is a positive. I agree. But it also removes the possibility for other people to have a voice on these boards. And the watershed districts specifically tend to be an area where a lot of people actually want to be on them. Like of the several candidates here, every single one of them is qualified. And if we only go with the idea that David Ziegler, who's the incumbent, who I'm sure is lovely, again, very smart, seems very qualified, that if we lean towards that way, it just makes it so that why would we ever have other people apply? I guess I just would love to have that, open that up. I mean, in Edina, what we would do for our boards is we would have, you could be appointed 2 to 3 times. I can't remember the exact number, but then you'd have to have a year where you were off. And I think we should consider that. I mean, maybe it's not this moment that we need to do it. Maybe we get through this round, but we talk about having it effective a year from now. But I really think we should be thinking about the equity of voices on these watershed districts. And so I would love to hear members.
This is not the only board where we have a lot of folks. They also, the libraries.
Yeah.
And also the Race and Equity at times has also had an overload of folks that are on it. And sometimes there's attrition and sometimes there is not. But yeah, they're very sought after. And I have to tell you, those watershed boards have a lot of work to them. I'm amazed what these people, the time they put in. Conley and then Fernando.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To that end, I wonder if there's any statutory language or anything we need to consider. Is there a county precedent that was already set before our time that we need to be considering with these? Thank you.
Chair, Commissioners, you have a policy on community advisory boards that discusses this concept of the supermajority for terms after 3. So that's something you could all revisit and look at your policy to determine what you want to do to amend it. It has been in place for many, many years, so maybe it's time to refresh and look at it. And it's not uncommon to have appointments that require a supermajority when we look at the bodies with individuals who have committed, their time, energy, effort, expertise to helping the county and its residents, its environment, and many of the other aspects of these cabs. So we can provide you with a memo and the policy, so you can look at it and determine if you want to amend it or modify it here in the near future.
Okay, Commissioner Fernando?
Yes, thank you. So to the item, at some point, I think we will progress it to July 8th, just mechanically. But I really appreciate you raising this, Commissioner Edelson. Some of these are cabs that fall under the rulemaking that our administrators referenced. Some aren't. We appoint in a similar manner, but each body might have a slightly different either statutory connection, et cetera. So perhaps even just one level above that, what are the bylaws and or some of them have charters, some of them don't, some of them have statutes, some of them don't. So maybe even just from the information gathering, what are the documents that are governing this particular very unintuitive, weird process? I want to really acknowledge that. The first time that I did this process on this way, it felt so awkward, and we did like 3 hours in a row or something. We didn't even break it up over time. So I just want to express agreement with and gratitude that you're re-raising it. I had kind of, you can kind of get comfortable or just sequencing prioritization. And 2019 was our first year, so 2020 was our second year. So it certainly just didn't stay on the top of my list, and so I really appreciate you raising it. So yeah, the suggestion to admin would be just to get the documents, because I know there's some that are connected to statutes, some have charters, some have bylaws, some don't have any, I think, and getting a sense of that at a time where it's practical to implement it, such as the new year, for example, might be beneficial for this group.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and then whenever it's ready for a motion, I can do that too. But
Commissioner Lundy wanted to comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to echo, I think it's always good to look at stuff. Looking doesn't mean you do something with it, but it means, I think it gives us options, and especially some cases may have certain rules that apply. I actually was appointed to the Hennepin County Library Board. I don't hold any grudges. None of you were up here. It took 14 votes. Because I saw the total when I got the letter, it actually had the round by round, and I kept getting 3. So I was trying to figure out who the heck didn't like me. And then finally, the 14th round, they gave up, and I got them all. But it was consistently done through that. But and so I do think the process is always, it's difficult because we have so many people applying. But I also like the idea that if people know going in that you can only serve 2 or 3 terms. I know City of Brooklyn Park, we had 2. And people would step off, and if they had passion, they'd come back, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so I'm open to whatever, at least having that discussion. I think it's worthwhile.
Go ahead, Administrator Huff.
Chair, Commissioner Fernando, we'll follow up with you. We have several of these that start out either with a statute or just a general policy by the county board. I was referencing the general rules that apply to the community advisory boards, but they're all each unique. There are some of these groups that are more challenging to recruit for. Others, we have dozens of folks that want to participate. And I was intrigued, Commissioner Lundy. So because it was 14 votes, you decided to run for election so you could change the policies.
I felt aggrieved that I needed to set the right.
No, I think this is great discussion. Thank you for bringing that up, and we'll dig into this some more. So I'll take that motion
I
to
will
progress.
move 2A and 2. I'll motion to progress 2A and 2B to the July 8th board meeting.
And I'll second that. Any other conversations? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are on to new business, which is first we have some routine items. They're different enough, I'm going to read them separately. Item 3A is ratification of permits, lease agreements, related property agreements approved by the county administrator from the period of January 1st of 2025 to March 31st of 2025 with a not to exceed of 15,000. May I have a motion on this? Moved and seconded. Any questions on this one? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Approved. 3B is a schematic design and budget approval of ACF Men's Visitation, Education, and Staff Training Remodeling Project. The project number is accompanying. I'll move this. Do I have a second?
Second.
Does anybody want an update on this one? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Approved. Item 3C is submission of substantial amendment to the 2023 HUD Annual Action Plan. Negotiate 2 award modifications from July 1st of 2025 through June 30th of 2070, a total combined not to exceed of $1 million. Do I have a motion for this?
Move approval.
Second.
Second. Does anybody want an explanation on this one? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3D is to negotiate an agreement with the Minnesota Department of Revenue for administration, collection, and enforcement of Hennepin County local sales tax. I'll move this. Do I have a second? Any questions or conversation? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Approved. We have an addendum, item 3E. It's authorized withdrawal from joint powers agreement between Hennepin County and City of Minneapolis and Minneapolis School District number 1 for youth curfew truancy services effective January 1st, 2026. Is there a motion for this?
I'll move it.
Second. Can we get a brief summary on this one, please?
Chair, you certainly can. This item has been brought by county administration seeking our withdrawal, Hennepin County's withdrawal from a joint powers relationship that dates back to the 90s. Most recently is reaffirmed in 2017. It's now referred to as a Youth Connection Center, utilizing a vendor, The Link, to help with truancy and curfew. Originally was identified as a truancy curfew center in the 90s and has gone through an evolution. This relationship has been consistent, has provided access to services for youth that are brought by law enforcement. It has been located historically in the downtown of Minneapolis. It's been comprised of the City of Minneapolis, Minneapolis Public School District 1, and Hennepin County. There's a JPA that meets annually to approve, a JPA board meets annually to approve the budget and renew contracts and take up other items and receive presentations on data, number of youth served, and outcomes. Through changes, Minneapolis Public Schools elected to withdraw last year. So there are 2 remaining members. Multiple meetings have been held between county administration, county staff, city leadership, the chief operating officer, and Deputy Commissioner Amanda Harrington, Lisa Bailey, Jody Wentland from the county with myself. In these conversations, discussions have occurred around the future of this programming. It has been decided after the pandemic that there was a need to go out and seek input from community through listening sessions. That has taken place, and it led to discussions with the stakeholders that I mentioned, the county attorney's office, stakeholder, courts, and a decision after consultation with our staff and city leadership has been made that we should move away from the JPA model to a new model, which would be a memorandum of understanding. It doesn't detract from the commitment of the partners, it just changes our operating model. And so this redesign of the YCC model means that we continue to partner with the City of Minneapolis through the memorandum of understanding. We're going to be more nimble in our management, not tied to an annual meeting. It'll be operated and overseen by our Safe Communities Department. And in fact, that department is in the process of issuing or has issued a request for proposal to select a community provider to implement the services starting January 1 of 2026. Safe Communities then will oversee the contract management and will seek input and guidance from the existing stakeholder group. Through the MOU, the city will continue to provide physical space. So starting in the fall of 2026, upon completion, there'll be new physical space that will be located at Minneapolis South Safety Center on Minnehaha Avenue. The emphasis of the new YCC will be on connecting young people to existing resources in the community, particularly those that are culturally responsive. And that's part of the RFP that is currently in process. And that include the youth families in the process. There will be potential referral services that include mental and behavioral health services, substance abuse treatment, truancy supports, youth programming, and workforce development opportunity. Lisa Bailey, our Director of Safe Communities is here as I am to answer any questions you may have about this next step. In the JPA, there's an out provision. We have to give advance notice, and that's why this is before you well in advance of the end of the year and the formation of this new structure. I know in my conversations with Margaret Anderson Kelleher, the city, at least city leadership, is supportive of this next step and how we go about enhancing and improving the delivery of services with the memorandum of understanding. It involves financial commitment from both the city and the county to sustain these important resources for youth in our community.
Thank you. Commissioner Fernando.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the verbal because I was trying to connect some dots here. So there were 3 members of the JPA. 1 exited last year, so there's just 2 of us, and now we're exiting just to complete that, to make sure I understand. Okay, great. In the MOU, are all of the 3 members back, or is it just the 2 members?
Chair Commissioners, it'll be the 2. I think one of the reasons, and I don't want to speak for the Minneapolis Public Schools, was the financial commitment. We will partner with the Minneapolis Public Schools. Obviously, they're a critical part of this. Whether or not they're built into the MOU as a partner in the relationship, that will unfold, and we will bring an MOU forward at a later point as we get through the discussion and negotiation process.
Understood, Chair, if I may. So, yeah, these resolving clauses are about the GPA, so that makes a lot of sense. Very much support that. I'm personally interested in the MOU. I think MOU, what is in there, I think as a treatment, and MOU is better than a GPA for this type of service, so that's also logical. I am interested around the truancy services, especially because we've heard, then where does the county attorney fit into this? Where does the school district fit into this? So to the item before us, this is very logical, makes a lot of sense. For the next step, I personally am more interested in the full kind of package, especially with who's at the table, why, how, et cetera, since we're seeing a number of similar words or circumstances that this board has, received information on recently and has had discussion on with respect to funding. So more comments for the next step. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just agree with the process. I just think that this needs to not be so Minneapolis-centric. I know for a fact that the suburban agencies don't take youth down to the YCC because it's not convenient. And dropping off a kid who may be in Maple Grove downtown waiting for parents or for them to get a ride that may or may not appear doesn't make any sense either. So I think the fact that we make it Minneapolis leads to the fact that all the numbers are Minneapolis. I know for many things, Robbinsdale School District has many connections with youth who live in Minneapolis, but they go to school there, the Brooklyns. So I think that this may be a legacy of the old, where it was Minneapolis Public Schools, Minneapolis City. I think the way kids and families now move, and kids are active in many different places where they might run into contact with the justice system, that having that mindset that is Hennepin County, period. And I don't begrudge setting up with Minneapolis at all. I think that's important for us to do. So I kind of really want to see what's in MOU. I know that a couple of the suburban agencies, Brook and Park specifically, has asked, is there a way to set up a satellite YCC to get the services? Because part of I think the beauty of this is the ability to connect youth that don't end up at the JDC, but have done something, that we get connected to them so that we can start to connect them with county services. And I think about the family services. So that's what I'm really interested in, is I think it should be bigger, but I'm not at all opposed to what you've got in front of us. Thank you.
Chair.
Please.
Chair, if I may, Commissioner Lundy, that's been a conversation since about 1995. And so I think one of the things that we have had conversations around has been how Safe Communities can support the rest of the cities in the county with access and providing those resources. So that is the intent. It's in process. And I really appreciate what you had to say, because there is a critical need. And to have it located in one spot in Minneapolis doesn't necessarily meet the needs of our suburban partners. And so that is in consideration. The memorandum of understanding is basically a cooperative agreement, and will include the partnership we have with Education Support Services and the critical partnership we have with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. They've had representatives from the get-go, from the beginning, and they'll continue to have those representatives. So the more school districts, the more cities we can include, provide access to these services across county will be really important.
Okay. Commissioner Conley, did you have a comment? Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The last item is an item of old business, item 4A, and there is an R1 that was passed around to you. You should have it next to you.
I'll move the R1.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is a loan to Hennepin Healthcare Systems for capital medical equipment purchases. Mr. Huff, any short synopsis on this?
Chair, the R1 reflects conversations, continuing conversations that I have had with commissioners and with hospital leadership. Dating back to the end of last year, the hospital leadership, the CEO, then CEO, and their CFO indicated a need for capital dollars, and we needed to create a common understanding of what those capital dollars were for. As you know, the county provides significant capital investment for preservation and new buildings at the hospital. What our subsidiary corporation was asking for was capital for medical equipment purchases, which they had a need for. There hadn't been purchases in quite some time, and equipment needed to be replaced. And so after multiple conversations and various proposals, in April this year, mid-April, a formal request was made by the CEO of HHS. That request was for $30 million. And after multiple conversations I've had with Joe Matthews, the county CFO, we're doing what we believe we can do. It's not the $30 million. The R1 you have before you takes what we previously had, $10 million initially, with a $5 million addition after 6 months review of payments and the ability to pay by HHS, and moves and changes that amount to $15 million initially, which I believe in communications with hospital leadership, they have a dire need for $16 million to replace certain pieces of equipment. So 15 is close to 16. And then after another additional 6 months, there can be a potential for another $5 million. So the total would be $20 million within a 6 to 9 month period. There will be a separate document that we execute that will be a binding contract between Hennepin County and Hennepin Healthcare System with payment provisions and requirements. Understanding the initial term of this will be 5 years to repay, with the potential to extend for an additional 5 years. The rate of return will be 4% per annum, meaning that they'll be paying interest of 4%, and that equates to what we believe would be what we would get in the current market with our investments. So this is what we're recommending under the circumstances and the need from our subsidiary, who we want to partner with. There is an additional provision that has been asserted into this agreement, and that's based upon multiple conversations and positions that are presented by HHS leadership. And that provision reads as follows: be it further resolved that the county board does not provide its approval as required under Section 3.4 of the Hennepin Healthcare System bylaws for Hennepin Healthcare System to incur additional debt from any other source. And what that means is, because there have been suggestions that the hospital may go into the private market to get credit, to incur debt, to finance the purchase of capital equipment. Legal has done a review of the bylaws, HHS bylaws, and we believe that they've reached a threshold with their current outstanding debt for the specialty clinic that does not permit them to go out on their own into the market to get this private debt. That it requires, and it's a mandatory requirement, that the county board authorize or approve in a separate resolution their ability to go out. And the reason for that is because in a parent-subsidiary relationship, if they were to incur that debt, we own all their real estate, so I don't know what the collateral would be, and there's a potential that would impact Hennepin County and its creditworthiness, not our creditworthiness, but our bond rating with a third party, with our subsidiary corporation getting additional debt. So that is a very important provision after review and discussion with our team that we believe is necessary in order for this loan to occur. So I stand for questions. Ben Schweigert, Managing Attorney of the Civil Division, is here, as well as Joe Matthews, County's Chief Financial Officer, is here. We've all been participants in this and are comfortable with what we're presenting here this afternoon.
I want to thank everyone for the conversation that we've had around this. It's been a lot of work, and it's challenging for the hospital, and of course, knowing what may come down on the federal side, it's very challenging for both the county board and the hospital. Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one question and then several sweeping statements, probably. So to clarify, as you just said at the end, you all are recommending this approval in this cycle? Is this right? We're in a June 24, July 8 cycle. So I see recommend approval on the bottom, so I can obviously answer that question.
Yeah.
Is it for right now?
Chair, this is time sensitive in light of what we're hearing, and through this being presented to us at the time, it has created challenges. We believe it's necessary in order for that equipment to be purchased so that patients can be cared for in this facility. So we are recommending it now versus waiting until the end of July or into August, because the procurement process will take time, and I think time is of the essence for certain pieces of equipment.
Okay, Madam Chair, and colleagues. So I'm not comfortable voting on this today. I'll do a progress at a minimum because it sounds like that's the recommendation by admin. I'm just telling you my perspective here. Should it go at the board, I would also request a divided vote, or divided by each clause. There's 5 clauses here in the clean version. I'm very disheartened that this is how financial discussions are taking place. That was a statement. So to the item, I am very appreciative of the last resolving clause to clarify the debt piece. I am not entirely sure about my comfort level with the amount of delegations here. Now, I can appreciate that part of this recommendation is because we are the financial guarantor for the entity anyway. And so I'm perhaps kind of reading, interpreting strategically the benefit here. And these are really big numbers. These are really big numbers at a time where there's lots of needs. And absolutely, the hospital will receive support that it needs to continue forward. But if this board, it is my belief that if this board is who is voting on that, then we need to have access to the financial detail that allows us to make these decisions with our whole heart and our full throat, or whatever the idiom is. And so when it is appropriate to do so, I would suggest that a minimum of progress motion, colleagues. I'm just offering my individual concern about the size of these numbers and the method of process and delegations that are contained within it. And I know the answer to this, I think, but I don't love the question. This comes from, what is the funding source for such a loan?
Chair, Commissioner, this comes from the general fund, our reserves. And that's the fund that we, at this point in time, with our current financial position, would need to take those dollars from.
I think I'm complete
Okay.
for right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lundy, then Conley, then Edelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, first I want to lead with, thanking staff for the work that we're trying to do. I'm partly curious. So the fourth resolving clause, I definitely support that, because at the end of the day, we're holding the bag. So if there is they can't pay, any private enterprise is going to come to us and say, we want our money, which is their right to do. That's what happens in the private enterprises. I'm curious to be what the risk factor of private enterprise would look at a loan request line of credit setup, because here we have a kind of a relationship with HHS. We know that we value the people they serve, the communities, and that a private enterprise doesn't care. They're going to look at hard, cold dollars, and they're going to say, what is the risk? What's the interest rate? And so the reason I say that is because I would like to know the risk factor to us, even though as we do this, I don't know if you had a comment to that one, Mr. Huff, before I continue.
Chair, Commissioners, they're going to look at many things. Revenue, a cycle, cash balances, collateral, and as I mentioned, real estate. Real property is owned by Hennepin County. So I'm not going to speculate as to whether or not loan amounts are available, understanding when the risks increase, the interest rates increase for the borrower. And so I think that you ask a really good question. The hope is they don't have to do this and go into the market, because it's going to be a lot different than 4%.
Well, and thank you for the answer. Just, I think that's the whole point, because this would be an unsecured line of credit, which in my simple world means a credit card, and that interest rate is much higher. And the securement for a institution is they know they could hit us, we'd have to pay the difference. And so we're the security. And so I absolutely agree with the fourth clause. Based off some of the recent information that the HHS board hasn't signed on to the idea that we should be finding ways to cost share, does their board have to approve this? Because I think I'd really like to make sure that, I'd like to hear that, because we can do everything we want on their side, but if the HHS board can't find savings with us in partnership, I would like to make sure that they acknowledge what's happening here.
Chair, Commissioner, it's my understanding that they approved a $30 million ask. This is a counter to that. So my assumption is they've got to ratify the counter. And if they don't, then it doesn't happen, because they're not going to sign any transactional loan documents that we send to them.
And if they don't approve it, does the fourth clause still prevail? As far as, I think, to me, I feel like we're reiterating for the public that they don't have that position to go out in the market with, being that it's our collateral they're going to use.
Chair, I believe you're referring to the fifth clause.
Oh, fifth clause,
If I'm
that's
not mistaken. And you're absolutely correct. It doesn't have to be in this resolving clause because right now, that's our interpretation. They have incurred more than de minimis debt. Therefore, without a Hennepin County Board resolution, a majority vote to go into the market, they can't do it.
I support the idea of progressing, or I think that's the part. I think that kind of discussion would be good. I just, this is where we have our discussion. I just want to express my unease with that. We're now into general fund. We're now really starting to move into it. And I honestly, as I sit here, wouldn't know the confidence that them being able to repay it. Last year we had a 1% levy noted on our tax levy that we told the public that was going to them. Now we have the fund mid-year, we're going to do it. And I'm not saying the good or bads, I'm just looking at finances. And I'm also, as I have been, and I think all of us are, we still have significant risk across, we don't know what the federal government's gonna do in healthcare. We got kind of a pass for now in the legislature. They said we're gonna set up a working group to look at disability waivers. That doesn't mean we're still gonna get a present delivered to us at budget time. We still have significant risks. This just compounds that in my mind. And again, I'm not saying do or don't, but I think as we continue to do these type of things, it's going to continue to drive my desire that we have greater influence on what's going on there. Because if we are this is the one power that this board has, it's to levy taxes on property and to have that money allocated. And I think that we're starting to get into that area where my comfort level, for me personally, not speaking for any of the board commissioners, is starting to become very uneasy that we've reached a point where we're just going to have no choice but to keep putting money in because the prior money is put at risk. So that's just my concern. I like the idea of progress in it as we get more information. But I absolutely want to hear HHS board pass this after hearing that they hadn't passed our joint savings effort, which I think is unconscionable. And I say that very specifically. We are in a budget crunch. We need all of us to be working together, and for them not to take action is basically to say no. I don't know anybody I've ever worked with who says, I need your help saving money, and for them to say no to us. So again, thanks to the staff for bringing this. I understand our responsibilities. I think more discussion to come. Thank you.
Commissioner Edelson.
Thank you. So thank you for this. This is very helpful. I agree to what Commissioner Lundy was saying about the uncertainty that we're facing. I also know that we've approved over roughly $2 billion for the next 5 to 10 years to invest in the health system. Is that correct?
Chair, we have not. I mean, that is still all open for conversation, and the administrator has grave concerns over the financial wherewithal with our commitments to this organization and our communities for operating capital to take on additional indebtedness without a clearly identified separate funding stream than property tax. And that is a major issue that, in light of what we're hearing and seeing with the hospital's operating budget and the multiple one-time asks that I've brought to you and you've ratified that are separate and distinct from the $38 million that this county provides in uncompensated, undercompensated care to HHS per annum. These are issues and concerns because, as Commissioner Fernando stated, where's the money coming from? It's coming from our general fund, our savings account. And that is not an unlimited resource.
So to that, I mean, I guess I would just say my analogy for this, like that comes up is if you can't pay the mortgage, you're not going to do it in an addition, right? We're not going to start building out. So I honestly think that we need to start thinking about if we cannot buy equipment. I support the equipment costs. I'm going to be very clear. I support that, and I think we should hopefully get something if it has to be broken up. To Chair Fernando's point, I'm fine with that, but I think that we need to get that money to the hospital. But I do think that we should have a larger conversation if the hospital's struggling to that extent. that we really need to get that under control. It's very concerning. It's concerning for the taxpayers. It's concerning for the people, the patients that need the care. And it's concerning for the employees that work for the hospital. So we have a big issue here.
Yeah.
Bigger than this bar is going to address. But I do hope that next week that we can push forward the 20 million to make sure that patients are getting equal care that they would get at another hospital that has a different payer mix. And then I want us to talk about the bigger investments and maybe what we need to change if this hospital is struggling that much. So thank you.
Chair, there is an intent right now. We have a consultant from Chicago that has been working diligently with our county team and with the HHS team that later in July, you all are going to get a preview on that work and the cost. And you all eventually are going to have to make decisions as to our ability to incorporate in the county's capital improvement program the request versus the reality of financing those requests.
Okay. Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think everything has been said that I wanted to say, but I do, I very much wish that this funding was coming from a different source. I have been to the clinic and have been referred to it, not a Hennepin clinic, but I've been to a clinic and had to be referred to a different location because they didn't have the equipment that was needed for what it is that I needed. So I think that patients who come to Hennepin County Hospital, to HCMCs, deserves to have top of the line equipment. So there's absolutely no way I would not support this. I want our residents to have the equipment that is needed for their care, period. And this is our savings account, and it's a lot of money. And we are up against the unknown that isn't looking good right now. At the very beginning of our committee meetings today, I talked about my experiences with SNAP and what's being talked about at the federal level with SNAP alone. So what does that mean when we are a county that operates off of very, very limited revenue streams? It means what you said, grave concern for what 2026 could look like. So it pains me that this has to come from our savings account at the tune of $15 million. My question is then, what are the repayment terms? It's not a question of I don't have the specific question of can they pay it back. It's, are we going to codify it in this resolution, or is there an administrator discretion about repayment terms? When I think of a loan, I think of you're going to pay this minimum amount due as you spend this amount every month. That's going to come to us. You have a grace period of 5 days, like typical loan, right? So can you talk a little bit about what the repayment terms are?
So Chair, Commissioner, there'll be a promissory note or an agreement that is executed by the county and the hospital with repayment terms, the details of which I know that Mr. Matthews has discussed with the CFO at the hospital on timing sequence, but they will have to make regular payments, and if they don't, then that's why the second $5 million was tied out at 6 months. If they don't have funds coming in and days cash on hand, then there are real challenges as to payment terms on a note. But that will yet be determined. You know, one thought that I had here in listening to all of you is that obviously important reporting back to you as to timing and whether or not payments are being made and what those payments are, so you have data coming to you showing that they're meeting the terms and obligations in that note, in that document. So I don't know, Mr. Matthews, do you have any additional comments as to terms and what we've contemplated here? Right here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe Matthews, Chief Financial Officer. We would anticipate 2 payments per year, which is pretty standard for a loan of this size. So we'd have an interest-only payment in the summer and then a principal and interest payment typically at the end of the year in December. So we would have regular checkpoints that we could provide to the board on payment terms, and then also, as you're aware, you meet with their board periodically and review their financial condition. And so we could review that at those checkups or an additional meeting if needed, but that would be the typical term. So it'd be twice a year that we would process a payment.
Okay, lots more discussion. Are you Commissioner Conley, a follow-up? Thank you. Okay, follow up with Fernando, and then Lundy, I still have my own too.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to be clear that it's what it's going for and who it's going for is not like what we're discussing here. At least for me, it's the unplanned, unbudgeted, and scaled nature of what's in front of us. So I want to offer that clarity. The second thing, and I have served on the HHS board since 2020. I'm aware that the finances for the hospital are protected by statute, but ours are not. And so when this comes back before us in a couple weeks, like the public should be able to access some amount of at least the county's discernment on the finances. I'm looking at you because I don't want to infringe upon the subsidiary statutory ability, but we are now speaking about the county's funds. And so I just want to state that aloud, that I am interested in how we ensure that the public is able to access this conversation and get a sense of what we're discussing here. Again, with respect to the other statutory authorities and privileges that HHS has. So that's one aspect, just the county portion of it. And I guess the second comment I would make, we're gonna run into this dynamic, hopefully with fewer zeros across lots of our lines of business, and certainly with providers. So the cascade, the impacts of on-high decisions financially are resulting in mass layoffs kind of across our provider community. We have not done that here, and I'm very proud of that. But I want to express, I know we're already thinking it, but we are in that. So the public is going is going to want, and they deserve the ability to access where their taxpayer dollars are going. And that's another aspect I want to express here. We usually don't raise that at this level, with the exception of uncompensated care. I mean, really, other than one line item in a budget book, we don't actually aggregate all of the financial interaction we have for many reasons. But again, this is such an unusual set of circumstances, and you're even saying that it's this time sensitive. So I just wanted to express, I don't know who's going to thread the needle on those sweeping statements, but I hope you can appreciate that the public deserves to have a sense of understanding around the funds that it has helped us populate in our savings account, essentially.
Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Please, go ahead.
Chair, Commissioner, I appreciate what you just said. I mean, this has been really challenging for administration, budget, and finance to come to a place where we're advancing nearly, 2 levy points, $20 million of general fund money, which is property tax,
Yeah.
collected and saved over years. I have the same concerns. I think it's critical that we have controls in place, and by controls, I mean this is just not given to the hospital to put into their general fund, their available cash on hand. We need invoices. I mean, I think that to have greater sight lines into what's being purchased, when, the cost, all those things need to be accounted for in what we're advancing these very important dollars to do. And it's just not given to them. So Mr. Matthews and I will work with potentially our procurement area. This is something that we have to have lots of documentation on, and we may figure out ways to pay this, and this may be a synergy, if you will, that there are different procurement models that we use, and we pay directly to the medical device firms. And I think that that will give us better sight lines and create some understanding and awareness with our subsidiary corporation that we're here to support, but there's some accountability.
So I'm going to go ahead and speak because I haven't had an opportunity, and I will come back to my colleagues. The gravity of the situation says discussion should continue. But, and I'm glad to hear what you just said, Mr. Huff. That's really important because one of the things is I want to make sure that it's spent on capital equipment that's really needed, dilapidated, and that will serve a good purpose and bring in the revenue that will help pay for that particular piece of equipment. At the last HHS joint meeting that we had, and I sit on the financial subcommittee of the HHS, of the hospital. And that's the most information we have seen and the most transparency, and I am disappointed to say that. Because we have been asking for that to show, where are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for this? They've asked us to go ahead and okay in the financial committee to spend $30 million and go out to the market and look for it without telling us or having a plan of how they would repay a loan. So that raises a huge red flag for me. So that I have a lot of concern about this. So I don't know what revenue source will be except for us, the county ourselves. And that could lead us to a lot of problems. And I want to know that if they do get the 15 million, if they agree to this, then I would like to see us come back for the 5 million and get another briefing on the 5 million that would come back before we would let other money, because again, we definitely want to see that the repayment is happening, what's going on at that time. I'm glad to see some of this happening here, but I do have a lot of concerns too, I think what Commissioner Lundy had said in regards to the fact of the partnerships that we have tried to offer, and yet they seem to be slow walking a lot of this. And we've been asking for that for over a year that I know of, and we haven't gotten anywhere. And we've already pointed out considerable savings that they could come up with several $1 million, and they just do not seem to think that moving on that with us is the way to go. And I don't understand that relationship at this point in time. So I definitely would look for some more conversation. Commissioner Lundy, and then I'll go to Edelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It'd be interesting because I understand, how much financial information that they can give us. If they went to the private market, are we getting the same information that a private market would ask for? Because I have a feeling it's pretty substantial. Because that's why I'm comparing it, us compared to the private market. If they went to the private market, I have a feeling they'd ask for whatever the heck they want. And if they didn't get it, they'd just walk. So I'm curious, are we getting that same level of information the private market would get?
Chair, Commissioners, with all the work that was done last year under board direction, Public Finance Management, PFM, was able to access. Generally speaking, when we do this, there are agreements we have to sign, non-disclosure, to protect the data. I can't speculate as to what they'd provide or not provide in the private market. My hope is that we would get the same types of information if we asked. I don't know, though.
The reason I'm asking is, so I served on a board of directors for a credit union, and any large dollar amounts have to go to the credit committee to be approved, and then it goes to the credit union. So that is a way that credit is approved. The credit union, and I believe we are the credit committee right now. We have access to information so that we can make a determination. Now, whether it's done in public or private, I think that's a fair question. But I do know very large dollar amounts approvals at a credit union would go to the credit committee, and we would see all the stuff that we needed, and we'd make it. But it was confidential.
Chair, I was just reminded by Mr. Matthews, under the operating agreement, Hennepin County Office of Budget and Finance is entitled to see all the financial information that we request and ask for. So that's comforting.
Okay, thank you. The other part, I am not comfortable with a twice-a-year payment, and here's why. In 6 months, we will be passing the levy. If there's a surprise, the final, right? Yeah, the final levy, which I think we had some good conversations with the board to help them understand our calendar. That when we get to September, that's the final top end number. Then December, our first indication that they might have an issue will be December, which would be way too late for us to do any kind of course correction because we're talking, like you said, 2 levy points, just for this one part. So.
Yeah.
Chair, Commissioner, point well taken. I think that a greater, increased frequency of payment, we'll have to work out just from the administrative side on our end, Office of Budget and Finance, the frequency of that, but I understand completely. If it's every other month, some continuous flow of monies on the loan would be important here.
And then the last thing, and I think staff, you were bringing forth a agreement knowing that there's questions and concerns, is just that I'm also worried that I think many of us have had where finances are not always stable, and you're basically proverbial taking money from Peter to pay Paul. And so if you're trying to make your house payment, you may not make your car payment, or you vice versa. So, as we make those payments, is there something else that they're moving? And then they come to us with a request in another category. So that is a concern. I've been laid off. I know what it's like when you are trying to pay a bill and you only have money for one bill and you have 5 bills. You prioritize on what's most important. So if they are having money problems, which I have no indication otherwise to think, or to think any otherwise, they make the payment and then we have other things. So I only say this because I think this is a discussion the committee would have. And I think this is good for our taxpayers, frankly, because we are dipping into the private fund. Thank you.
Commissioner Edelson.
Just one more quick thing. On the general fund, if next week you could just let me know, or sometime this week, or let all the commissioners know what percentage of our general fund this will be removing. I think the taxpayers, I think we should know that before we also make this decision.
Chair, Commissioner will follow up with that percentage.
Thank you.
And just finally, I just want to say, first of all, this was a really great conversation. I want to thank all my colleagues up here. I think we've got some really tough decisions. I think hospitals in general are in really poor positions and everything. I think we have to move carefully. As I sit on the Finance Committee, one of the things that I have asked and we have yet to get is a strategy and the scenarios for what happens when the federal government cuts Medicaid. And let's face it, when you cut Medicaid, you also cut Medicare because they're braided. People don't realize that. One will affect cuts to the other one. So you just don't cut Medicaid and put all these new work requirements and everything and not cut Medicare as well. But we have not seen that strategy. We've not seen scenarios of how they will manage through that. Where I have seen on some of the other nonprofit boards that I am sitting on, true strategies, not pretty strategies, I will tell you. In some ways, it would end some of our nonprofits. In others, they would be crippled, but they would manage. And so we definitely need to see what's going on with this institution. I agree. What creditworthiness do they have on the outside market to begin with? It's probably only to the county board. And I think that's very telling. I'm very concerned about that. Go ahead, Commissioner Lundy.
Madam Chair, sorry, this will be the last one. I think in your eloquent terms about the money and the risks, I keep thinking back, and all credit and blame goes to Ms. Wentland for searing this into my head, which is it's not just the money, it's the requirements that get changed.
Yes.
So let's say you have to validate work every 6 months. They're not allowing us extra money to do that. We just have to take that bureaucracy on ourselves, and then
Correct.
suddenly staff time where we're now that and other requirements and other things where the money doesn't go as far anymore because administratively we are now slowing down to do these other things. And so I think that's just as dangerous as the sheer cuts as when we have to meet these new requirements, and yet we're just supposed to eat that part. And so
Absolutely.
thank you.
Okay. I believe that you would make a motion to
Yes,
progress.
I'll progress 4A to the July 8th board meeting.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye on the progress motion.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that concludes our agenda.
I'll call to order the Human Services Committee. It's Tuesday, June 24th. It is 3:05 p.m., and I'm Chair Heather Edelson. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from June 3rd. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And
Second.
thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have one routine item before us today. I'll move item 2A before us. If I could have a second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. I will now read the item into the record. Item 2A is a human service and public health resolution, including contracts and amendments to contracts with the providers. More information is outlined in the Human Services and Public Health Report 2509. Are there any questions? These are just a lot of renewals, pretty basic. It looks like we don't have any questions. Thank you, Ms. Wetland. With that said, being no questions, all those in favor of approving item 2A, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the Human Services Committee, and we are adjourned.
I'd like to call today's meeting of the Law, Safety, and Justice meeting to order. We have a few items. First up is 1A, which is approval of the minutes from June 3rd. Could I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved. Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have two items, routine items. I think, given the topics and our discussion last time, it'd be best to do them separately. If I get a motion to move 2A, I'll read it into record.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. 2A reads two new agreements with Minnesota District Court for Drug Court and Mental Health Court Services, 7/125 to 6/30/27, receivable amount of $716,878. Does anybody want any background? I have Mr. Huff here. Okay. Seeing none, I will move to a vote. All those in favor of 2A, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move 2B. If I get a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. 2B is an agreement with the Minnesota Department of Corrections for intensive supervised release. Contract period is 7/125 to 6/30/27, $3,778,400 receivable. Does anybody want any background on that as well?
Just some background, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Huff.
Chair, members of the committee, Renee Merkins is here to discuss this receivable from the state for ISR services.
Chair, Commissioners, this is Renee Merkins with the Department of Community Corrections and Adult Specialized Services. The DOCCR staff supervise high-risk clients released from a Minnesota correctional facility or prison. The community ultimately benefits as agents are aware of the client's whereabouts during the initial supervision and until the clients move to a lower level of supervision. Under the DOCCR and Department of Corrections grant agreement, DOCCR supervises the highest clients released from a Minnesota correctional facility. The caseloads are smaller in size in order to provide intensive supervision with numerous face-to-face contacts per week at their residence, employment, and in the community. The supervision allows for DOCCR agents to provide intensive supervision in our Hennepin County communities to reduce the risk to public safety. At any given time, there are 240 clients being supervised by ISR agents. Agent caseload capacity is set at 15 clients to one agent, which allows for the intensive supervision. DOCCR providing supervision of these clients being released from a facility allows for Hennepin County to know who is being supervised, where clients are residing, and the whereabouts in our community. The grant amount is the same as the previous cycle. Funding a slightly smaller with a slightly smaller FTE count from 17 to 17 from what was previously 19 agents.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the background. I was interested in seeing if we were maintaining levels And it sounds like we're, for the most part, able to maintain levels, but there is a little bit of a decrease. That's what I was looking at. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of 2B, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And with that item complete, the agenda of the Law, Safety, and Justice Committee is complete. The meeting is adjourned.
Sir.
Good afternoon. I'll call to order the Public Works Committee. It's Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 at 3:11 p.m. First item is to approve the minutes from the June 3rd, 2025 meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners Edelson and Gotel. All those in favor of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have several routine items, and I'll batch them in some amount of similarity. 2A will go solo, the authorization to request a variance from Minnesota Department of Transportation standard for state aid operations related to CASA 153 Lowry Avenue reconstruction. I will move this. May I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. Ms. Cerny.
Chair Fernando, I would ask Jessica Trebojevic to please provide some background on this topic.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Jessica Trebojevic with Transportation Project Delivery. I'm requesting authorization to seek a variance for a shared use path width for the Lowry Avenue Phase 2 project, which is between Marshall and Washington Streets. The project is in the design phase and includes work under a BNSF railroad bridge. There is not adequate width under the bridge to carry the required shared use path width. Since the project will not rebuild the bridge, a variance for the project is needed. By approving this request, staff can request the variance to include a continuous shared use path for people walking, biking, and rolling along Lowry Avenue. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for the background and for the commitment to multimodal design. Colleagues, any questions? Okay, 2A's before us. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2B and C are kind of education related. May I have a motion for both, and I'll read them into the record.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners Edelson and Conley. 2B is an amendment to an agreement with Padilla to continue on broad food waste prevention campaign, extending the end date to December 31, 2026, increasing the not to exceed by $395,000 for a new total not to exceed of $995,000. 2C is an agreement with Bolton and Menk Inc. for environmental educational services. The period is July 8, 2025 to December 31, 2027, with a not to exceed of $90K. These are routine with strong background outcomes contained in the resolution. Colleagues, is there further discussion or presentation desired? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of 2B and C, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2D and 2E are both MnDOT and bridge items. May I have a motion for both, and I'll read them into the record.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners Gotel and Edelson. 2D is an agreement with MnDOT to accept LBRP, Local Bridge Replacement Program grant funds for bridge number 4510 replacement along Vernon Avenue over Canadian Pacific Railroad in Edina. Adjust revenues, and the county receivable is a little over $1.1 million. 2E is an agreement with MnDOT to accept LBRP grant funds for bridge number 90475 replacement along France Avenue over 9 Mile Creek in Bloomington. Adjust revenue, and the county receivable is just about $358,000, just under that. With a motion and a second before us, I think a little bit of overview for these two items would be great, Ms. Cerny.
Chair Fernando, I would ask John Ekela to provide some brief background on both of these topics.
Thank you. Welcome.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you. John Ekela, County Bridge Engineer with Transportation Project Delivery. This request is to execute an agreement with MnDOT to receive $1.1 million and $350,000 for bridge bonds for the associated bridge projects. The funding is available through the state's local bridge replacement program. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I know that there's a lot of bridge interest on this board, so I want to see if my colleagues have any comments or questions. No? Okay. All in favor of 2E and 2F? Oh, excuse me, 2D and 2E, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2F is to negotiate agreement with Plymouth and Three Rivers Park District for CASA 73. Total county cost is $1.06 million with various project accounts and increasing the budget by $25,000. 2G, sorry, I'm gonna read these both and then want a motion for both. These are both capital projects. 2G is various agreements for CASA 82 Mill Street. Again, various accounts that are written here. May I have a motion for 2F and 2G?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners Conley and Gotel. These do come before us at various times. But want to pause to see if there's anything notable from Ms. Cerny or if there's any Q&A from colleagues. Hearing and seeing none, 2F and 2G are before us. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and I will declare the Committee of the Public Works adjourned.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call to order this meeting of the Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Our first item of business today is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
The agenda has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
The agenda has been moved and seconded. Any corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is set. Item 2A is our minutes from the meeting held May 13th, 2025. I'll take a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Minutes have been moved and seconded. Thank you. Any corrections or comments on the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The minutes have passed. Item 3A is our claims register for the period ending May 31st of 2025.
I'll move it.
Item has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes. There are about 6 items of new business before us today. Colleagues, item 4A is to negotiate a supportive housing strategy award modification. The dates on this are May 7th of 2024 through December 31st of 2083. There is no change to the NTE. Is there a motion to bring that before us?
So moved.
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded, and Julia Welly-Ayers is here to present on this item. Welcome.
Chair Conley, Commissioners, thank you. Julia Welly-Ayers from Housing and Economic Development. One of our earliest supportive housing strategy capital awards went to Aon to redevelop the former Exodus space at the St. Olaf Church. As imagined under the supportive housing strategy, the project team needed ample time to get through hurdles, finalize their funding, and secure all their necessary requirements. But the project is now preparing for a closing this fall with occupancy to begin in late 2026. This action here would extend the project's affordability period to 55 years to align with other funders' requirements. Please let me know if you have any questions.
We love to see that affordability period extended. Colleagues, questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. Item 4B is amending an agreement with West Hennepin Affordable Housing Land Trust. We're revising the income limit for home ownership. Is there a motion to bring that before us?
So moved.
Item
Second.
has been moved and seconded, and I think I'm bringing Julia Welly-Ayers back for this one. Thank you.
Chair Conley, Commissioners, when the Affordable Housing Incentive Fund was first established, it required all housing to be affordable to households below 50% of the area median income, including housing for homeowners. Soon after, we increased that maximum income to 80% of the area median income, but still prioritizing households below 60% of the area median income to reflect the changing housing market. This action today would increase the allowable income for just one of the 4 households under this 2007 agreement from 50% to 80% AMI. This reflects the structure of our current agreements that we're executing under the Homeownership Assistance Fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I have just one, and it was more so just about the change from 2007 to 2025 and how we've kind of changed according to that. Do you think that we'll have to look at each individual property and see like that stark 50% versus our more average 80%, how we're keeping things affordable for people who are selling versus people who are buying? Thank you.
Chair Conley, that's a great question. This is the first of this kind of request we've seen from our older batch of agreements. If we see more requests coming through, we might do a similar arrangement. We would want to still have the mix of units within an agreement, still have some units 60% AMI, some at 80% AMI, which is how we're currently writing agreements for going forward.
Got it. Thank you for that. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. Item 4C is preliminary approval to issue one or more tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds for an affordable housing preservation project at 3400 Park Lawn Avenue and 5010 Summit Avenue in Edina. Authorization to apply for allocation of issuance authority and to establish a public hearing. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded, and I will ask Abby Lucen to present on this one. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Conley and Commissioners. I'm Abby Lucen with Housing and Economic Development. Today's request is related to the proposed issuance of up to $22 million in housing revenue bonds to support the preservation of South Haven and Summit Point, 2 existing affordable housing properties in Edina. Common Bond is the owner and developer of this project. South Haven and Summit Point will continue to provide 129 units of affordable housing, all of which are 1-bedrooms reserved for seniors and people with disabilities. This is deeply affordable housing with all units reserved for residents with very low incomes and 26 units further restricted to households with extremely low incomes, the 30% of AMI bracket. Also through this renovation and preservation project, Common Bond has newly committed 13 units to serve people exiting homelessness. Referrals from Hennepin County's coordinated entry team will begin as those designated units turn over, so no existing residents are displaced. Staff recommend preliminary approval for this conduit financing, which will enable the project to seek an allocation of volume cap bonding authority from the state Office of Management and Budget, or MMB. I'm available should you have any questions about this project or today's request. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. Item 4D, this is to negotiate a business district initiative agreement with the City of Hopkins. The dates on this are June 25th of 2025 through 12/31/2026. This is an NTE of about $40,000. We're negotiating 5 consultant agreements for Hennepin Planning Grant Assistance, June 25th of 2025 through April 1st of 2026. That one has an NTE of $160,000. I'll move that if there's a second. Item has been moved and seconded, and I'll ask Ryan Kelly. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Conley and Commissioners. The item before you would approve agreements for Business District Initiative and Hennepin Planning Grant projects in partnership with 4 Hennepin County municipalities. The Business District Initiative and Hennepin Planning Grant programs are part of Hennepin County's economic development strategy. These competitive programs provide resources to cities that are actively investing in the success and growth of their local business community and business districts, and to cities that are advancing land use and redevelopment plans that implement community visions and help achieve county goals through a more efficient use of land and sustainable growth, addressing climate resiliency, health disparities, and economic resiliency. This action includes direct grant agreements with cities for business district projects and agreements with consultants competitively selected to complete planning projects. The recommended projects include a business district marketing effort and pedestrian improvements around downtown Hopkins, an update to the station area plan for the future Blue Line extension, Brooklyn Boulevard Station in Brooklyn Park, including market and development feasibility analysis, land use review, and bike pedestrian infrastructure planning in that station area and along Brooklyn Boulevard to the Village Creek area. A small area plan for the Mississippi Crossings South area in Champlin that will help attract mixed-use redevelopment, improve connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians, and attract new businesses. And a Main Street of Rogers plan, creating an actionable, coordinated vision that will foster redevelopment, create a safer environment for pedestrians, improve public spaces, and support expanded housing options. Combined, these awards will leverage matching investments, guide future development to more efficiently use land, better support biking and walking, and impact over 90 businesses. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. That is music to our ears. Commissioner Fernando.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, very exciting action. I'm excited to vote for it. I wanted to make a comment around, it would be helpful for us to understand over time what cities are, how cities are bolstering, or we are helping cities to complete a vision or advance a certain vision in their area, and just what is that mutuality or kind of cost, it's not cost participation, but how are they also bolstering those efforts? The reason I'm asking is because that's just a lot of feedback that we get during construction season and et cetera around what are cities and counties doing to ensure that its business community is thriving, and getting a sense across the cities about how they're partnering or how we're partnering together towards that outcome would be really beneficial. And, you know, for example, I've asked that question of City of Minneapolis. So if there's a business district, you know, are those parcels getting additional support? Like, what does that designation kind of get for those business owners? And so as this as we continue to partner with our cities towards those outcomes, that additional detail I think will be beneficial, so we can get a sense of outcomes. But obviously, we are all talking about budgets and really wanting to make sure that we're kind of eyes wide open and mutual about it, right? That it isn't just the city or just the county, that we really are kind of together towards those ends. So information related to that would be beneficial as time goes on, and I'm excited to vote for this action. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I'll just add that improvements like these are so important, not only to business districts, but it's just the livelihood of the neighborhoods in and of itself, and understanding that sort of agreement. Because when we hear from constituents, they don't know who maintains the sidewalk versus whose road it is. So that would certainly be helpful in the long term. So thank you. Don't go too far, because I think you've got the next 2 items. Colleagues, this is item 4D. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 4E is to negotiate 4 agreements to provide commercial real estate ownership technical assistance to eligible local small businesses from June 25th of 2025 to June 30th of 2026 with an NTE of $100,000. Is there a motion to get that one before us?
Move approval.
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you again, Chair Conley and Commissioners. This item before you would authorize agreements with 4 consultants to provide technical assistance to local small business owners seeking to acquire commercial real estate for their own use. Funding for these agreements and this model of technical assistance is included in the HRA's approved budget for 2025. Building on the model of providing technical assistance to emerging developers via our transit-oriented communities pre-development assistance, these agreements would provide a similar type of consulting expertise to small business owners seeking to own commercial real estate for their own use and occupancy. We know that ownership of commercial property can lead to greater certainty and viability for Hennepin County small businesses, even in areas where market values may be increasing. Commercial property ownership can also be a strategy for building generational wealth, contributing to Hennepin County disparity reduction efforts. We also know that the process of buying and renovating a commercial property is extremely challenging, and that our communities of color face systemic barriers and inequities in financing commercial property acquisition. These agreements will provide consulting expertise to help address some of the challenges and barriers small business owners, including disadvantaged business owners, face in buying commercial property. More specifically, these competitively selected consultants will provide expertise in assessing the fit and financial viability of a specific property acquisition. If these agreements are approved, our team will begin to promote the availability of this technical assistance broadly, working closely with city partners, foundations, and community organizations, and conduct an open application process to identify eligible local business owners that are seeking to acquire their first building for their own business occupancy within Hennepin County. Eligible applicants will then be matched with qualified consultants to provide unique scopes of work tailored to the needs of each business owner and up to a maximum amount based on several factors, including financial hardship and availability of matching funds. Authorization of this request will provide technical assistance to approximately 10 small business owners in their pursuit of commercial property ownership for their business operations. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I was thinking about this one for a while, and I really appreciate that we're doing this. In fact, the ways in which we support our small businesses is just outstanding. I am a big fan, shout it from the rooftops. And, I've been thinking about some of the conversations bubbling out of the city of Minneapolis with vacant storefronts and how the council is thinking about fees for that. And a lot of what we're hearing from young entrepreneurs who want to open their own businesses is not only do they need the expertise that you're speaking of, and I might ask you to talk a little bit about how a business owner might get connected to this work, but is that the rent is too high or it's unaffordable to get a brick and mortar. So I'm wondering if you can kind of weave in, I'm assuming that some of the technical assistance provided helps navigate some of that. This space might be too expensive. Where else could we look? Or do we start online? And then, can you speak to that a little bit?
For sure. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. So the intention of setup is one, on your outreach question, working, and I should say that the idea of this program came from our conversations and work, particularly with Lake Street Alliance, Neighborhood Development Corporation, other community organizations like that, and working with businesses in those areas, and particularly after the civil unrest. So that's informed some of that program design. And the business ownership model assistance is intended to support people with financial consultants that will walk through, here are the steps that it takes to acquire real estate, looking at appraisal of that property, developing sort of a pro forma, but also, again, if it's not clear, they're business owners and not real estate owners. And there's a distinction there that we see business owners not always understanding and taking on that sort of maintenance, preparing for asset management. There's types of specific aspects or things that through this program and our consultants, we hope to educate them in and run some of that early feasibility analysis so they can make hopefully a wise decision for their business if they should acquire or continue to lease.
So how can our small businesses find out more about this?
Yeah, well, Commissioner and Chair, it's a communication strategy is being developed. I would say certainly, as you're talking to people, which you might be doing, send them our way. I mean, happy to ask questions, happy to follow up with you all. But in our communication strategy, we work again with some of these community organizations and city partners to roll this out, mention that the assistance is coming, and how that program would work. Ultimately, an application will be on our program page for business owners to access.
Wonderful. We'll share everywhere. Thank you for that. Seeing no other comments, all those in favor of item 4E, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. Item 4F looks to be negotiating 6 agreements for TOC pre-development assistance to eligible local emerging developers. This, again, is June 25th of 2025 through June 30th of 2026 for an NTE of $200,000. Is there a motion to bring that
Move
before us?
approval.
Item has been
Second.
moved and seconded. Mr. Kelly, welcome back.
Thank you, Chair Conley and Commissioners. This item would approve agreements with 6 consultants to provide pre-development services to emerging developers, advancing development of projects in areas with high-frequency transit service. Funding for these agreements and pre-development assistance is included in the HRA's approved budget for 2025 as part of the Transit-Oriented Communities Program. Consultants were selected via a competitive request for proposals and are skilled in real estate development finance and project design, advancing transit-oriented communities principles. Emerging developers will be selected via an open application process and must be locally based, pursuing one of their first development projects and seeking support for pre-development activities not yet completed or funded by other sources. Eligible developers are matched with qualified consultants to provide unique scopes of service tailored to the needs of each developer and their project, and are eligible for a total value of up to $40,000 in assistance based on feasibility of the project and a required commitment of matching funds. Since transit-oriented communities pre-development assistance was first offered in 2022, we have supported 15 emerging developers. Of those supported, 93% identify as Black, Indigenous, Asian, Latino, or multiracial, and 80% of the projects are located in focus communities, areas where residents face the greatest disparities and stresses to health and well-being. Approval of this action will result in support for 5 to 8 emerging developers and advance community-supported redevelopment projects in transit-oriented communities. I'm happy to take any questions.
Another body of work that I'm very, very proud of, and I know you all are too. Any questions or comments, Commissioner Fernando?
Yes, just wanted to amplify the excitement. Since it's already been a few years for the pre-development portion. That's incredible. Just want to highlight for those watching at home just how much this action kind of reflects a lot of the feedback that we have received from residents, partners, and from our municipalities. This is about assisting with the vision that residents already have, particularly the local community. This is in alignment with how those cities have determined their land use, how they are discussing density and multimodal. And so this in particular, transit-oriented communities, which we have several programs that pre-development is an investment in that local area's wishes for themselves. And I can't quite emphasize enough how important that is, because we also saw many years ago the barriers to entering, and so this specific intervention at a couple $100,000 is then also responsive to those who are trying to the budding entrepreneurs and the individuals who are meeting needs. So we don't often have an item that is so reflective of residents, developers, providers, and city needs. And this one really is it, and wanted to highlight that, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I'll just say, yeah, these last 3 items have been just groundbreaking. And I feel like it was just yesterday that we started the TOC pre-development assistance, but it really speaks to this historical way in which the big developers got the big contracts, and we really want to uplift those folks just getting into it who are local. And from the stats that you gave, we're doing just that. So thank you for that. With that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. What appears to be the final item of business on our agenda is 4G, and this is to authorize a supplemental appropriation to amend the 2024 Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority budget. We're authorizing an interfund cash transfers to support 2024 expenses. I'll move that if there's a second.
Second.
Item has been moved and seconded. Mr. Dockery?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, this is an administrative reconciliation. I think is Joe's, you want to? We'll have Joe Matthews, our CFO, just give a quick background on it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe Matthews, Chief Financial Officer for Hennepin County. This is very similar to the action that we took earlier for the county budget. This is the HRA budget. It's the reconciliation, as Mr. Dockery said, and so we're just closing the books on 2024. And in this case, there was some activity that they actually moved more quickly with than we anticipated, and so we need to recognize that in our 2024 financials.
Sounds about right. Thank you. Questions, colleagues? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes. That is the end of our agenda. I will declare us adjourned. Thank you.